Recent developments across Northern Australia highlight key issues impacting Indigenous communities, from leadership accountability and historical resistance to youth justice reform and political engagement. Former Cape York Land Council CEO Dion Creek faces 38 fraud-related charges tied to his tenure. While the Northern Land Council has welcomed Labor's re-election as an opportunity to intensify efforts to close the gap. Meanwhile, reflections on the 1946 Pilbara strike honour its legacy as Australia's longest and most significant Aboriginal industrial action. In the NT, new research showcases the Hoops for Health program as a model for community-led, trauma-informed youth justice, calling for stronger investment in Aboriginal-led solutions over punitive approaches. More of that later. Kaya, I'm Leanne Djilandi Dolby, and this is the National Indigenous Times Daily News Bulletin for the 7th of May, 2025. Dion Rees Creek, former CEO of the Cape York Land Council, has been charged with 38 offences related to alleged fraud committed during his tenure from October 2022 to August 2024. Charges include 22 counts of fraud, 12 counts of making false declarations, 2 counts of stealing by a director or officer, and 2 counts of computer hacking and misuse. Creek, 39, was arrested at Cairns Airport on May 1, 2025, and initially refused bail before being granted it in court. The case has been adjourned until July 8, 2025. Appointed in September 2022, Creek was previously known for his work in social and economic development in Coen and Cape York. The CYLC, established in 1990, supports 17 Indigenous communities in asserting native title rights and achieving cultural, social and economic outcomes. In the 2022-2023 annual report, Creek paid tribute to past leaders, including his mother, who was the council's second CEO. The Northern Land Council, the largest land council in Northern Territory, has welcomed Labor's recent victory, expressing optimism about working together to close the gap and elevate First Nations voices. Chair Matthew Ryan acknowledged that the Albanese government's efforts over the last 3 years, particularly in supporting remote housing and jobs, but stressed that more immediate action is needed in the new term. Emphasising that Indigenous people hold the solutions, Ryan called on the government to listen to traditional owners and act on issues facing remote communities. The NLC looks forward to collaborating with Labor's NT representatives, Senator Mullenderi McCarthy, Marion Scrimgower, and Luke Gosling, to address critical needs in housing, health, and education. Their goal is to ensure Aboriginal Territorians can live and thrive on country for generations to come. The Pilbara strike, which began on May 1, 1946, holds deep significance both globally for workers and locally in Western Australia as a landmark moment in Aboriginal resistance. Over 800 pastoral Aboriginal workers walked off cattle and sheep stations in the Pilbara, initiating what became the longest industrial strike in Australian history, lasting more than 3 years until August 1949. The strike, led by Aboriginal lawmen Dooley Bin Bin, Clancy McKenna and Peter Coppin, was a powerful stance against exploitation, demanding fair wages, better working conditions and social recognition. It followed years of planning, including a pivotal 1942 Aboriginal law meeting at Skull Springs, involving over 200 representatives from 23 language groups. Women such as Daisy Bindi also played key roles, including leading walk-offs and mobilising communities. Non-Indigenous ally Don McLeod supported the effort under the Aboriginal leadership, despite being arrested and jailed, only to be freed by strikers who marched on the jail. The WA government responded with force, but the strikers sustained themselves by living off the land and selling animal skins. Their persistence led to the improved labour conditions that became the standard across the region. The Pilbara strike is remembered as the first large-scale Aboriginal industrial action and a defining moment in the broader struggle for Indigenous rights, dignity and self-determination. And finally, Ellen Thomas, a social worker lecturer and researcher at Charles Darwin University, shares her findings from a collaborative Aboriginal-led study exploring the impact of the Hoops for Health program in the Northern Territory. With Aboriginal youth making up 63% of detainees despite being 30% of the population, The research critiques the government's punitive approach to youth justice and calls for culturally grounded, community-led solutions. Hoops for Health, active both outside and inside detention centres like Dondale and Holtz, uses sport, mentorship and trauma-informed practices to build trust, resilience and self-regulation amongst Aboriginal youth. The program blends Aboriginal and Western knowledge systems offering early intervention, detention-based support, and post-release mentorship and employment pathways. Notably, it has helped youth shift from self-blame to understanding trauma's roots, causes, and gain emotional regulation through consistent, culturally safe engagement. However, gaps remain, particularly around post-release support and employment infrastructure. The research highlights an urgent need for government investment in Aboriginal-led initiatives that empower young people and reduce reoffending. As the federal and territory governments reaffirm commitments to closing the gap, the study urges them to get back to long-term, culturally safe programs like Hoops for Health over punitive models, framing it as a vital shift from managing behaviour to building futures. And that's today's Daily News Roundup from the National Indigenous Times. For more news, head to nit.com.au and sign up for our free newsletter.